What's going on, guys? Alex with 814 EDC, and today I'm ready to do my full review on the Benchmade Redoubt. So this is a knife that is in on loan via the Apex passaround group, and I feel like it's a newer knife, as in the sense of it's newer from this year, 2022. I believe they were announced back in Blade Show back in January, and I think they started popping up or being released maybe May, June-ish. I feel like that's when I can remember seeing them pop up around Instagram and YouTube. And it was a knife that I looked into buying, but I ultimately held off. And luckily for me, it found its way into the Apex group, so that is definitely a cool perk, and I was able to check it out that way. So I've had it for about 2 weeks. I've carried it a few times, checked it out. I think it's definitely a good knife, but at the end of the day, there's some things I want to talk about to go over with it. For the value that you're getting, excuse me. But I am ready to give my full thoughts and opinions, and talk about it to you guys. So jumping right into materials, you guys can see it has a two-tone scale construction. So you have gray, kind of concrete gray scales right there that taper down here. It holds the Axis style lock, which you guys all know and either hate or love. Here you have a gripped section that goes the whole way up over the scale, or the spine, excuse me. Got a lanyard hole, almost said tube, but I really like how the texturing is kind of one solid piece instead of having like a piece here and a piece here. I really like how they put it up over the spine. It just adds kind of a cool factor in both the Ergos department and kind of the aesthetic, in my opinion. I do really like how they did that. Obviously, this is all FRN scales. It's plastic. It's not G10. So, of course, you can... I don't know if you guys can see that or not. If you push hard enough, you can flex the knife. That's just kind of how, Benchmades are. I'll show my bug out here, for example. The bug out's kind of notorious for it, but you can definitely... Hopefully that'll pick up on camera, but I can clearly bow those a little bit. Speaking of the bug out, I've been carrying that like every day for work. I kind of rediscovered my love for it, being such a usable and lightweight, kind of a workhorse. So I've been carrying that a lot lately. But back to the Redoubt. So FRN scales. The Pock clip I really like. It's coming out of the back of the knife. You can switch it to lefty or righty carry. And I just think it's a very aesthetic looking Pock clip. I love how it kind of just flows with it, and it's a little bit different from what Benchmade typically does. In my opinion, I think it looks really good. It's probably one of my, I love the mini deep carry clip that comes in the bug out, but I really like this one. I think it works very well, and it looks well, feels good in the hand, stuff like that. So obviously, like I said, you have the Axis bar lock, which is a Benchmade standard at this point. You have a Benchmade logo right there. This is in CPM D2 steel, which is different than normal D2 that you get from like China and stuff like that on a lot of budget knives. From my understanding, this is a lot tougher. It's still not very corrosion resistive, but you can see you have this, I think it's cobalt black or cobalt gray coating on here. It looks good and has kind of a cool texture to it, so that should help with keeping some of the rust away from it. But from, like I said, my understanding, CPM D2 is a lot tougher, and just an all-around better steel than normal D2. So don't think you're getting like $30 steel on a $160 knife, because that's kind of what I thought right away, until I looked into it a little bit more and heard some people talk around the community about it. But it's kind of just a simple drop point, spear point style blade, very simple. Overall, the knife is very utilitarian, just kind of a very simple, plain Jane, no frills type of knife. For internal milling, there is actually a lot of it is kind of milled out. It's kind of milled out in like a triangle pattern, but it's FRN to begin with, so it's very lightweight. You do have the dual thumb studs. The grind is flat, comes down to a decently thin edge. The blade stock in general is pretty thin, I feel like, so it comes down to a decently thin edge. It feels, not the sharpest it could be, but this has been in a passaround group. I have, waded through, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 channels, something like that, for me to get it. So it's probably seen a little bit of use. So it's not going to be the sharpest, but Cool thing about Benchmade is you have their, I think it's their work sharp, you know, lifetime guarantee. Once your knife gets stalled, you can send it back to them. So actually my Benchmade or my bug out is gonna need sent back here pretty soon, because I have a sharpener. I have a work sharp sharpener, but I'm not very good at it. I probably should, you know, learn to sharpen a little bit better, considering I am into knives. But yeah, so I think I just said I'm into knives, like you guys don't know I'm into knives. I have a knife YouTube channel, Alex. One of those days, guys. But yeah, I think that's all for materials. So we're going to jump into action next. So dual thumb studs, access bar lock. You know, you guys all know that access style locks do not have detents because just the way they're built. They have the springs. They don't have a detent ball. So, you know, it's kind of mushy right in here, but most oftentimes you just have to power through it and it snaps right out just like that. Pull it back, drops closed. Now there is a little bit of blade play on here. I tried to tighten it up a little bit, but it got like super tight to where I like had to pull it back and it wouldn't drop. And I didn't want to mess with it that much because again, it's not my knife. So I kind of, you know, reverted it back to how it was. So, you know, if you don't mind a little bit of blade play on your knife, you can get, you know, really good drop action like that. Middle finger flick works, but you kind of have to put your finger in the right way and definitely give it a little bit of gas, because you can do this where it kind of just like lollygags itself out. But overall, you know, it's the most drop shut Benchmade I've handled. But again, you have that blade play, so you do have to take into account for that, but very fidget friendly. Time it didn't drop, but you know, you can pull it back with just your thumb like that. So, you know, it's not, the only knife that I have right now with an access style lock is my bug out, I believe. Yeah, I had a Deca before. I kind of regret selling that because it was cool. I had a SOG Terminus XR, which is pretty good. Had a access style lock on it. And I think that's the only other one that I handled. But the bug out's the only one that I have in my collection. I don't mind access style locks, but I kind of got away from them. You know, I definitely don't want a whole collection of them. But, you know, this one's smooth, well broken in. That was weird. But, oh. So it'll drop, but then you have like other random times where, like right now, it's just, you know, super smooth. But I don't know. But overall, action's pretty good. You do have to overcome that detent though when you're flicking it out. But that's just something that if you're accustomed to access style locks, you are, you know, pretty familiar with. So, you know, overall, can't really complain too much. And, you know, with having the blade play, it does make it really nice and droppy. So, action is pretty good. So, next up is Ergos. While I get a little bit of a drink right here, check my time. So overall, Ergos are very good. It's in my opinion, it's a larger size knife for me. I tend to, you know, my max size is right around 3.5 inches. And according to the website, this is 3.55 inches. So to me, this is a full-size knife. I'm sure other people would say this is a small knife, but to me, this is a full-size knife. It's very ergonomically friendly. You have a groove right here that has kind of a natural restriction point, and then it's pretty much flat right here. And it's flat here, but it kind of tapers off and gets chunkier as you get back towards the rear end of the knife, the booty. But I find myself getting all four fingers on here very easily. I could stick a fifth pinky or a fifth finger on there if I had a second pinky. Very comfortable. My thumb just rests right up here if I'm in a saber grip. Hammer grip is comfortable. Any reverse, you know, any other, you know, kung fu fighting, Saturday night gas station fights over Slurpees with Kevin, any other grip you want to, you know, hold, it's going to be really comfortable. Overall, the milling back here, the texturing pattern on the FRN on this certain piece is definitely aggressive. I think it's just a notch under being overly aggressive because I can definitely feel it in the palm of my hand. But overall, it's not bad at all. You know, it keeps the knife locked in. You know, you feel like you're not gonna, you know, lose, you know, any sort of grip on it. With it being FRN, it makes it a very lightweight knife for, you know, the size of it. I believe, according to here, which I'm using Knife Center's website, the weight is 3.7 ounces. So for it being a 3.5 inch blade, a pretty decent sized knife. That's very lightweight, and that definitely comes into effect as well with the Ergos. You kind of have this little area up here that you can choke up if you're going to be doing some precise cuts and you want to be, very careful with, doing some push cuts or cutting around something. You just have to be very careful because your finger is kind of on the edge right there. But as long as you're like not, really torquing down or using this like in a really hard use manner, that should be okay. But just definitely be aware of your finger being stuck on the edge of the blade right here. So that's just something to be aware of. But overall, it is very comfortable. The size is good. You can, to me, this just screams like a good work knife. Very comfortable in the hand, very ergonomic, just very, I like to use this term a lot when, with knives and styles like this, but just very utilitarian, just very simple. Like I said earlier, no frills, just a good knife that is ready to work. And, sometimes work knives can look like work knives, but they necessarily don't feel like it in hand. The Ergos can kind of be wonky on them, but for this one, it feels really comfortable, and it feels like you just want to go, cut some shit up or, chop down something. Whatever you want to do with your knife, this feels like it's going to be ready to work with such a good grip. Overall, I've kind of gotten away from the FRN, world. I do have the Bug Out. I do have the Spyderco Sage 5 Lightweight, which is an FRN. I think those are the only two that I have because they are lightweight knives. But other than that, I've kind of gotten away from it just because, I still don't mind it, but I would prefer, a little bit more premium material just because sometimes it does feel cheap. I don't think this necessarily makes it feel cheap, but it doesn't exactly help it feel like it's worth the price tag it is, which I'll get to that in the final category. You guys know I like to go over price point and, of course, if I would recommend the knife. But overall, Ergos are very good. So to me, that's kind of a shining star of this knife. It's just how comfortable it is in hand. So, and the next up is carry. And I just talked about how lightweight the knife is, 3.7 ounces for a full-size knife. You have a really nice deep carry loop over style Pock clip right here that comes in off of the top of the scale, which is really cool. Lefty or righty carry, so you can switch it over. And it carries super well. I mean, you drop it in your pocket. You don't have any flipper tab or anything over here to catch on. You do have this texturing from the scale kind of insert right here that maybe, like, if you're going to be in and out of your pocket, like, every minute grabbing something or very, very frequently throughout the day, this could irritate your hands because, like I said, it is aggressive. I would say it's right, one notch below being too aggressive. But it carries very well. It's very lightweight. It's in a nice, kind of streamline. The blade kind of tucks itself back in. Just a very simple package, but the Pock clip, it works super well. I mean, it doesn't have it's not the most, the tightest Pock clip in the world, but it looks really good from an aesthetic standpoint. It works well. I love when they loop over like that, and it goes in and out of your pocket easily. So overall, carry, I can't complain either. So that was a really short category as compared to Ergos. We talked for minutes about it. But next up is final category of price point and what I recommend this knife. So according to Knife Center, this goes for $162. Now, I also looked at Blade HQ and KnifeWorks because those two and Knife Center were the first three that popped up when I typed it into Google. It's going for $180 on there. So if you guys are interested in this knife, I will leave a link to the Knife Center listing down below. Try to save you guys some money, save you about 18 bucks. I'm pretty sure when it first came out, it came out at 162 bucks, but I think with inflation and everything like that, everything else is going up in price. So I don't know if 180 bucks is its new price point, but like I said, if you're definitely on the fence about it or interested, please go check out the Knife Center link down below because it'll get you the best price that I found, at least. So 162 bucks. We'll categorize that into 162, basically 160 to 180 dollars. I think at 160 bucks, I think that I can justify that because that's kind of what the FRN scaled knives are going for nowadays. You are getting you're getting FRN, but it's definitely different than most FRNs. You have this texturing pattern in here, how it kind of looks like an integral almost, kind of how it wraps the whole spine around and it works back here. You have a really nice Pock clip that can work lefty or righty, loop over style from the top, deep carry clip. You have, of course, the Benchmade access style lock, dual thumb studs, a very usable, very utilitarian blade shape. Overall, very utilitarian looking knife. You have CPM D2, which is a really tough tool steel. And I think that this knife, you know, what it's kind of leaned towards doing is being a really good work knife that's lightweight, but also heavy duty, that can take a little bit of a beating, but give you that lightweightness that's not gonna, you know, weigh your pants down as you're, you know, carrying it throughout the day. So I think at 160 bucks, I think that can be a justified price. You know, I'm not going to run out and buy it. That was one of the reasons why I wanted to hold off on it, because when I saw the price point, you know, it's crazy. The bug out was originally like a $120 knife. Now it's up to like 160, 170 bucks for the, you know, standard S30VN or S30V blade steel one. So it's just kind of crazy what we are at nowadays with price points and inflation and everything like that. But I do think 160 bucks can be justified. Personally, if I would get this knife, I would spend the extra, you know, I think they're 75, 80 bucks over at Applied Weapons Tech. They are selling aluminum scales for these, and they look really, really good. They're basically coming out with aluminum scales for, you know, the Para 3 lightweight, the Manix 2, the Para 3, Para 2s, mini grips, these bug outs. Like they're really knocking out a lot of cool scales over there. But I've seen some floating around Instagram with scales on this knife, and they look really good. So if I were one to get this, I would probably, like, if I really like the overall blade shape and the overall design of it, I would definitely probably go pick some of those up just to get a little bit more. You might add a smidgen of weight, but they're aluminum, so they're going to be really lightweight anyway. But you might add a little bit of weight, but you're going to get a little bit more toughness and a little bit more of a premium feeling knife. So now at 180 bucks, I do think that's a little too high. Of course, it's only a $20 difference, and some people might just say, you know, 20 bucks is 20 bucks. I just won't eat out this week. I'll save that 20 bucks. I won't get a couple coffees, stuff like that. And yeah, I mean, that's a good way to think about it. But overall, I just think that, you know, 180 bucks, you can get some really nice knives for that price tag with better materials. And, you know, you can say the same about 160 bucks, but I think the original price point of these is much better suited for it than 180 bucks. Hopefully you guys can, you know, hopefully this makes sense to you, but I just, you know, you could see a little bit better steels. At that point, you can maybe get G10, you know, and I'm not knocking CPM D2 or FRN. They're both, you know, suited, you know, they're both they're good materials in their own right for their own separate, you know, specialities. But to me, 180 bucks is just maybe a little bit too high. So, you know, overall, it's a good knife. I enjoyed, you know, checking it out. It was one that I kind of had my eye on for a while. And that's, you know, I'm glad the Apex group got one in for me to check out, or for us to check out, I should say. So, and 160 bucks, yeah, I think it's a good, you know, work knife. Definitely check into the Applied Weapons Tech scales if you're interested in it. 180 bucks, maybe, you know, if you're really loving the model and you don't mind spending an extra 20 bucks, you know, go for it. To me, I think that's just a little too high compared to some of the other stuff you can get at that price point. But yeah, so guys, this was my full review on the Benchmade Redoubt. Shout out to the Apex Passaround group for getting this in and allowing us to check it out. It's a cool knife. I always like checking out Benchmade stuff because, you know, I do like supporting Benchmade. Just nothing recently up until this one has really caught my eye. I do eventually, I think, want to get another mini grip. I had one before I had the channel and I sold it, but I love the sheep's foot with the whole blade. It's probably one of my favorite blade shapes ever. I just think it looks really, really good. And you're kind of getting the best of both worlds with the axis style lock and a spidey hole, basically. So in the future, I'd like to pick one of those up and, you know, maybe one of the cool sprint runs and stuff like that. But yeah, so full review of the Benchmade Redoubt. Thank you guys so much for watching. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. You know, consider clicking subscribe and like if you guys liked what you saw. Leave a comment down below. What are your guys' thoughts on the Redoubt? You know, is it overpriced? Is it, you know, underpriced? Correctly priced? You know, let me know. I like to hear what you guys have to say. So, and as always, please look in the link for Blue Creek Knives and use code 814EDC for 10% off of your purchase. if you have anything over there that Brian's selling. Brian's a great guy, and I love to support him, so because he has supported me. So yeah, that'll be all for today, guys. I greatly appreciate each and every one of you. I hope you guys have a fantastic rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.